Hi, I'm Brian Robertson, your host, and I'm here to welcome you to this edition of Rutherford County Magazine. First, we'll talk with the Election Commission about some new changes in the election process for Rutherford County. Next, we'll talk with the Codes Department to highlight their efforts in keeping us safe. And lastly, we'll visit the new Judicial Center to catch up on the building process. So sit back and enjoy this edition of Rutherford County Magazine. Recently, there were some changes made that affect the way we vote here in Rutherford County.
Under the new concept that's actually been adopted by our commission is that to make voting more convenient is that we're going to reduce the number of polling locations from 49 to 28, but what you're allowed to do is you're allowed to vote at any of those 28 locations. You can vote anywhere during early voting. So what we're doing now is on election day, we're taking that same concept so you can vote at any of the 28 locations, not all of them, just one of the 28 locations that we have. So instead of having one option on election day, you now have 28 options.
One of the greatest benefits is on election day, if someone won't have to worry about going to the wrong precinct, or if there's one closer to where they work, they'll be able to go there. They won't be rushed for time. But this is an excellent opportunity to try to meet the voter where they are, as opposed to always making sure they get back to the community where they live.
By law, we're required one vote center per 10,000 registered voters. So right now, Rutherford County has just over 160,000 and some odd number of voters. So by law, we're supposed to have 17 vote centers. But what we're actually doing is we're implementing 28. So what we're doing is we're doing 11 more than is required by law, because we're doing one vote center per county commission district. And then we're also doing, in all of our rural communities, we're doing one vote center for everyone that's recognized with a federal post office zip code. We've got a couple places too that we'll have vote centers because the density of the population in that area drives it. So that's the reason why we have 28 locations.
Some of your smaller counties, the way that it works, you really have convenient locations already, and the public is used to going to those locations, and these precincts haven't changed for years. In a faster growing area, typically because of the way the district lines are drawn and candidates or incumbents may change, or whatever the case may be, the faster you grow, the more state representatives you're going to get, the more senators you're going to get, typically more, sometimes you expand the county commissioners. So when you're dealing with that, you're not always locked into a location. Your location may change. You may be voting at one precinct in 2018, 2020, you're voting at a different one. In some of your smaller counties, you've been voting at that location since you turned 18. So there may be some resistance because of the way we've always done those things. So it may be that if the voters aren't willing to do that in a smaller county, it may not be the right thing. It certainly is geared toward, I think, a larger population. Larger population counties, then this could be something to be very beneficial.
Which another key part of that is too, I know some people, we get a lot of complaints of, every time we do reapportionment, under the old concept, the locations change. So they get used to going somewhere for a 10-year period, and then they end up getting moved. And so now those locations will be locked in, and they won't move every 10 years with reapportionment, because they're locked in for good. So their vote centers with their precinct, now who they vote for may change, from the districts, but they'll always know where those locations are, because so it will create consistency. Take, for instance, John Pittard and Oakland Middle School. All right, we're going to consolidate that into one location. We're going to have it at SportsCom. And so at SportsCom, instead of having, typically you have 3 registrars at a precinct. at a polling location. So what we're going to do is, because of the volume and the history of turnout, and plus with it being right there located close to State Farm and other large employment area there. So what we're going to do is we'll probably have 7 or 8 registrars to check voters in, and then instead of having your typical 4 or 5 voting machines that you would have at a fairly large precinct, we'll probably have 8 to 10 voting machines there, so you can handle the volume. So we're able to move voters through.
One of the main things we're looking at is to make sure that there's a secure system in place, and that with the way that individuals will be voting, we want to make sure that someone can't vote at one vote center, turn around a few minutes later and go vote at another vote center. So you got one situation where we're protecting the voter data, and we want to make sure that no one is getting the voter registration data, that it's not a liability. But the other thing that we're looking at is to make sure that no type of fraud could be committed by someone doing that. It took someone to step forward and say, we want to do this in the state. There's 95 counties. Rutherford County is the pilot project. And going into this, the pressure was on Rutherford County, the administrator as well as the Election Commission, because if it doesn't go well in Rutherford County, it's kind of it truly could end the program.
Our goal is to reduce the amount of time that people have to wait, because that's why we call it convenient vote centers. It's convenient for voters, but we're doing it also in considering the time it takes for people to have to spend waiting in line. So our whole objective is to make the process as quick and as easy as possible.
From what I will do for my visit here, and from watching the process from the beginning to the end and all the hard work that's gone into it at the local level in Rutherford County, I have to do a report, and from that report I'll be recommending whether this should be a program that should be expanded in Tennessee or a program that should be done away with. It doesn't mean the legislature will go along with my idea or agree with that, but certainly it is something that the legislature, when they pass the legislation, giving the authority for Rutherford County to do the pilot, that was something they wanted to be a part of it. They wanted someone that looks at the election in all 95 counties, not just one, to see how this could be expanded, if expanded at all. And in general, most of your polling locations probably won't change, because we're drawing every 10 years based on the census on the boundary lines. However, if you have a polling location that's established, that you can vote no matter where you are in the county, unless something happens to that, if we're voting at a school and there's a new school built or the building closes, you're going to have consistency even in large counties, which we typically have consistency in lower population counties, but you'd be able to have the opportunity there as well. And so that's going to be something that will be nice and an added benefit to the citizens going forward. They'll know where their polling location is and perhaps get in a routine there in voting that way.
So big changes are happening in the way the election process works, which should cause it to be more convenient to vote. Here we are at the site of one of many construction projects going on in Rutherford County. So let's talk about keeping your family safe in your home, shopping, and at work.
The Rutherford County Building Codes Department issues building permits for any new construction, additions, remodels, and any other construction project that you might be doing at home. We also are charged with enforcing the Rutherford County zoning ordinance and also the property maintenance standards. The biggest reason for building codes throughout the nation, not just in Tennessee and Rutherford County, is the commitment to the health, safety, and the general welfare of the citizens of the jurisdiction as it pertains to building and building construction and the occupancy of those buildings. And we do that through consistent application of the standards, the building code standards, and inspections, and all the way through occupancy of the home and maintenance of it. I think oftentimes they have a miscommunication or misconception, actually, that the Building Codes Department may be a necessary evil or an inconvenience to their building project, but really I would love for people to know that we're here to help, that we are here to make sure that the structure is going to be a safe and a resilient structure for their family and their guests and future residents, and that's what we're here for. So I would love for people to realize that versus that we're here to make their life difficult as the project goes on. Just about anything, any construction project in Rutherford County requires a permit. In fact, that question would probably be better answered by listing the items that do not need a permit. Any addition, any new construction, addition or remodel, new structure within the lot, accessory structure, swimming pool, garage, anything like that requires a permit. The items that do not require a permit would be a small storage building, 120 square feet or less, one story, does not require a permit. Sidewalks, patios, driveways, flatwork do not require a permit unless you anticipate putting a structure on that slab. So if you think you may put a sunroom on a patio or a garage on a driveway or a roof over a patio, please do come in and let us know. Let us take a look at that slab and document that it was inspected if you anticipate putting a building on it in the future. We can look at that. Changing out windows, painting, tile work, new floors, cabinets, countertops, anything like that does not need a permit. When you get into the structural integrity of the home or the structure, it does need a permit. Anything that you're going to modify, any structural aspect of the building. You can obtain a building permit as a homeowner for a remodel or an addition. However, I would strongly recommend that if you are hiring someone, if you're doing the work yourself, that's absolutely acceptable. You can come in here and pull the permit all day long. If you are hiring a contractor to do a remodel project or an addition, I strongly recommend that you either one, verify that they're licensed through the state of Tennessee and insured, or two, let them come pull the permit. And we will verify their license and we will verify their insurance. And the advantage to that is that if we have any issues or any issues arise during construction, we will correspond or notify the permit holder. So if that permit holder is the homeowner and the contractor has done something wrong and maybe left the building site or has not come back to something, our hands are tied. We can't do anything. As far as we're concerned, the permit holder is responsible. So it would be in your best interest, if it's a major remodel or construction project, to have your contractor come and pull a permit, because he's accountable to us and we can contact him and correspond with him or her. The code is written by the International Code Council, who updates their code every 3 years. Now that doesn't mean that we adopt that modified code every 3 years, because we typically don't. The state law requires us to stay within 7 years of the state adopted code. And currently the state adopted code is 2012, as is Rutherford County. If they come in and pull a permit for an addition or a remodel, anything they remove and replace needs to be replaced with currently compliant applications. So if they were to remodel a kitchen or something, anything that they put into that kitchen, any new item or new construction going into that kitchen would be required to comply with current code. Device or swimming pool that holds more than 24 inches of water is subject to needing a permit. The reason, and in ground, above ground, any type of pool needs a permit. The reason is we have fairly strict barrier guidelines to go by, which can be found on our website, by the way. So if you are considering or anticipating getting a pool this summer, we strongly recommend that you go to our website and review the barrier requirements, because a lot of people will go out and get a pool, come in and get a permit, and be totally oblivious to the requirements for a pool, in that it needs to be completely surrounded by a barrier with a locking gate and several other requirements. So it's well worth visiting our website or calling us and asking us what's required before they spend the money and get in a pool or sign in a contract. A citizen can either call us at our office anytime, Monday through Friday, 8 to 4:30, or our website does have a tab on the left side, a report of our property violation tab, where they can go in there, fill it out, hit submit, and it'll come straight to our office, and we will look into it. Within usually about 24 to 48 hours, we're out there trying to validate whether the complaint is valid, and we follow through from there. We have a wealth of education here. We have a wealth of information. If you have any questions whatsoever, you are confused or don't know whether a project needs a permit or don't know what is required by the codes department, please give us a call. Because in this scenario, almost always permission is cheaper and easier than forgiveness is. So I would strongly recommend that they give us a call before they pursue any kind of project.
Building safety is important to every citizen of this county. Okay, let's move on to our last topic and visit Murfreesboro's newest downtown building to see what's going on.
In the last 3 or 4 months, those outside of the building probably are noticing a tremendous amount of work. You're seeing the streets take shape. You're seeing the plaza out in front of the entrance to the building take shape with trees, planting beds, kind of all the civic space around the building is really taking shape. But most of the work has actually been focused on the interior. Finishes and fit out of all of the courtrooms, public spaces, all the detention spaces in the basement are nearing completion. The construction sequence has typically been going from the ground floor up. So therefore, the construction and level of completion on the ground floor is much further along than, let's say, the 6th floor. So in terms of percentage of completion, we're nearing probably 95% on levels 1 through 3. And as you go up on levels 4, 5, 6, it's less so. All of the courts and everything functioning in this building will be delivered on the opening day of May 7th. Once the courts are online, everything has to function. That's all of the doors, all of the hardware, all of the security systems, everything has to function perfectly on that day. There is a very extensive testing policy for almost every feature in this building. It will take approximately a month to what we call commission the building. And that basically gives the systems, all the HVAC, the security systems. It not only gives that an opportunity to kind of flush the building out and really settle in terms of indoor air quality and temperature control, but also it gives the users of the building and the people that will operate an opportunity to really understand the systems, know how to control and manipulate everything from the temperature to the security for operation. We're conscious about traffic flow and moving people through the building as quickly as possible and getting them to their destination. At that point, that places things like the clerk's offices, the jury assembly rooms, and the high traffic courts are all on levels 1 and 2 to kind of alleviate that pressure on the elevators. So really this space is about getting folks as quickly as possible to that, but at the same time giving them a sense of place and a grand experience that really, I think, speaks to this community and this courthouse. Within the lobby, we are doing a significant art piece. When you do a facility like this, it has so much public interaction and public engagement. It's an opportunity to have that interaction and give people a focal point and in some instances, kind of take their mind off of what might be a potentially stressful day or stressful few moments here. So within this space, we do have one large wall that spans over 2 floors that really gave us a focal point and feature within the lobby. We elected to essentially create a large mosaic or collage. When we started this project, and it's going back to the art aspect of this, we really wanted to make sure that anything that we did from an art standpoint was about this community and really reached out to folks in this community, the creative community in Murfreesboro. So we actually are teaming with Bill Shacklett and Shacklett's Photography to create this mosaic. And what it is essentially from a distance, you'll experience an image of the historic courthouse, the cupola that everyone recognizes in Murfreesboro. So it's an intentional connection that we are making to the past and the history of the courts in Murfreesboro. But as you get closer and closer to this, you realize that it is composed of a series of images that are actually all out of Bill Shacklett's archive and the archive that his family has created over the years. And so it really is about, at a large scale, that iconic moment of the connection back to the public square, but also really about the faces and places that have evolved in this community. And hopefully people will recognize that and appreciate that as they're moving through the facility. So the exterior of the building is nearly complete. They're kind of doing their final cleanings and touch up, but most of the exterior work is really focused on the site. You'll see that the streets have been a mess around this construction site for quite some time. That ought to be coming to a close soon. The curb and gutters are, for the most part, installed on Lytle, Maple, and are far along on Burton Street. The sidewalks have been poured, for the most part, around the perimeter of this site, and you're starting to see the final grading also come along, so that you really see how the topography and landscape is shaped. So that's exciting to see. You're also starting to actually see the landscaping and the trees come on site as well. So as hard as everything is, you know, once you add that greenery, it really softens the edge of the building, and hopefully people will appreciate that as they come and experience this Judicial Center. So the facility is set to open on May 7th. I realized after looking back at a schedule today that we interviewed for this job in September of 2014. So it's been an amazing experience, and as you see the spaces and places that you know we all collectively created and imagined back in 2014 come to life here in 2018. It's an awesome moment in the process. The construction team here has been with Bell & Associates has absolutely been tremendous to work with. They have been dedicated to this project, and for those that have never experienced something like this, we've all done group projects throughout our lives, but this is a massive group project, and you know the collective effort of that group, not only the people that are designing, constructing, but also the collaboration we had with the city, with the county, the users, judges, sheriff's office, the Rutherford County Office of Information Technology. You know, it's all been an integrated process, and you know, it's just fun to see this coming to light. So we're grateful.
So we expect the project to come in on time and on budget. Thanks so much to Alan Farley, Mark Goins from the state of Tennessee, Tanya Bell, and Adam Nicholson for making this episode possible. If you would like to know more about Rutherford County government, please visit us at www.rutherfordcountytn.gov. Thanks for watching.